You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. The Mann Act, which is officially titled the White Slave Traffic Act, is a century-old federal law initially created to curb human trafficking. But today, more than 100 years after it was passed, its history and application remain deeply controversial, particularly in cases involving high-profile black celebrities. Many people believe the law has been misused as a weapon to target influential black figures in American society, stirring debates around race, justice and accountability. In this video we're diving into the Mann Act's origins, its role in past and recent cases, and the broader implications it holds for racial injustice in this country. The Mann Act was enacted and passed in the year 1910 with the purpose of addressing the moral panic of the time, especially around the perceived exploitation of young women by so-called white slave traffickers. The law made it a federal crime to transport individuals across state lines for immoral purposes. This language was rather vague, allowing it to be interpreted in ways that went beyond combating sex trafficking. And it wasn't long before this vagueness turned the Mann Act into a tool to control behavior, rather than a purely protective measure. In fact, early cases show that the Mann Act was often applied based on societal judgments about immorality rather than strict definitions of trafficking. One of the most well-known early cases involving heavyweight boxing champion Jack Johnson, the first black world heavyweight boxing champion. Johnson's relationships with white women scandalized many in a deeply segregated America, and his celebrity status as a black man defying social norms only heightened the backlash against him. In 1913, Johnson was prosecuted under the Mann Act and accused of transporting his white girlfriend across state lines. Critics have argued that Johnson's case was less about trafficking and more about the fear of a successful black man defying racist societal norms of who must succeed and who shouldn't. Well, that is the America we had back in the early years. Johnson's wrongful conviction and imprisonment therefore became emblematic of how the Mann Act could be wielded to criminalize black men in relationships with white women that defied social expectations. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the Mann Act has again been invoked in cases involving some of the biggest names in the entertainment industry. While human trafficking and the exploitation of women are serious issues that should be prosecuted regardless of who is doing it, the Mann Act's history and continued use against prominent black celebrities have led many to question if justice is truly blind. In recent years, high-profile cases involving musicians like R. Kelly have brought the Mann Act back into the spotlight. R. Kelly was charged under the Mann Act for allegedly transporting individuals across state lines for illicit purposes. These charges were part of a larger case against him involving serious allegations of abuse that have also since failed to be proved with evidence. While Me Too activists picked interest in the allegations against R. Kelly and accepted to be used by his opponents in a game of blackmail to take him down, many do argue that the use of the Mann Act here reflects a long-standing pattern of selectively enforcing laws against black men in positions of influence and wealth. And looking at the already described pattern from as early as 1912, only 2 years after its enactment, it becomes hard to rule out the high possibility that R. Kelly's case is simply the latest addition to the statistics. If the American society was able to misuse this law as a racial segregation tool against interracial marriages between black men and white women back in 1912, there is in fact a high possibility that the same is happening now with R. Kelly as the latest target, off course with many still in the pipeline to follow. Some advocates for criminal justice reforms argue that the Act's history, combined with these selective applications, reflects ongoing racial bias in the American legal system. The concept of selective prosecution is central to understanding why the Mann Act's application has stirred controversy. While any crime, regardless of the perpetrator's race or status, should be prosecuted if proven, it's evident that black celebrities often face disproportionate legal scrutiny. This discrepancy raises important questions. Is the Mann Act applied more vigorously when the accused is a high-profile black man? And if so, why? Statistics show that black Americans, particularly black men, face higher rates of arrest in this country, receive harsher sentencing, and are more likely to be targeted by certain laws that were seemingly enacted to keep them in check. When it comes to black celebrities, their fame and influence seems to make them even more likely to attract legal action. And this pattern is not only about the Mann Act but reflects larger racial inequities across the justice system. The Mann Act as it stands today still reflects elements of its 1910 origins. Laws against sex trafficking are essential, but the Act's language and specifically the term immoral purposes remains broad and can be open to subjective interpretation. With each case, courts and society are forced to grapple with what is considered immoral or unacceptable in today's context. The application of the Mann Act has repeatedly sparked debates about racial bias, with high-profile black men often becoming symbols in the fight over systemic racism. Some legal experts argue that by using the Mann Act in selective cases, the justice system effectively labels certain types of relationships or behaviors as criminal depending on who the parties involved are. The conversation around the Mann Act is part of a larger dialogue about criminal justice reform. Advocates argue that to achieve true justice, we need to address the ways in which laws are applied selectively. They call for clearer definitions and transparent or consistent application of laws like the Mann Act, particularly when they are used in cases that attract significant media and public attention. At the same time, reformers stress that the justice system should continue to pursue legitimate cases of exploitation and abuse. But that pursuit should not reinforce harmful racial biases or the idea that black celebrities are somehow more likely to engage in criminal behavior than their white counterparts, as we have seen with the case against R. Kelly. So where does this leave us? The Mann Act is over 100 years old, but its impact and the discussions around it are surprisingly still highly relevant today. High-profile cases involving black celebrities remind us that laws are not only about words on paper, but also about how those words are applied, and to whom. The Mann Act's history of being used against influential black men from heavyweight champion Jack Johnson to modern-day celebrities urges us to look critically at the broader issues of race, power and justice in America. Are these laws serving their original purpose, or are they sometimes used to reinforce social and racial hierarchies? As we continue to push for a fairer and more just society, we must ask ourselves tough questions about our legal system. How can we ensure that justice is applied fairly without bias, and in a way that protects all people equally? If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sasha@hnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.